So, as we mentioned with the graph, we know that when we have a system of equations, we have two different equations and we want to know where they're going to hit each other, where they're going to intersect and have a shared point. Now, we already know from the graph that they intersected when x was 3 and y was -6. Your ordered pair always gives you your x, then your y, just like the alphabet, x, y, z. X, then y. Now, we already know that when we solve this by hand, we need to get 3 as x and -6 as y. So step 1 is you find at least one equation where you have an isolated variable totally alone. In this case, both equations already have y as alone. So I'm going to circle this first one. I'm going to box what it's equal to. Then I'm going to circle the same letter in the other equation. Because what this means, guys, is we're allowed to substitute. We can use substitution. Since we know y is equal to what we boxed, I can come down to this y, delete it, and replace it with what we know y is equal to, the box instead. So we know y is equal to this. So I'm going to come down here and delete that y. And I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of this. But instead of this y, we're deleting it, and we're putting the box in there in its place, 5x minus 21. And now we have a nice little equation we can solve. Now, there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. There are 4 different correct answers for the next step in solving. In general, though, I always think it's important as your first step to try to get your variables onto the same side. And since they're on different sides of the equal mark, we need to use our opposite, our inverse operations. So I'm going to move the -3x over to the 5x. And the opposite of sort of -3x is going to be adding 3x. And whatever I do to one side, plus 3x, I have to do to the other side. And I'm going to line up my x's there. So now 5x plus 3x is 8x. We haven't touched that minus 21. -3 plus 3 is 0. That was the whole point. We moved it over to the other side. Then we haven't touched that plus 3 yet. And now we just need to solve for x. I'm going to circle it because I know I need to get it alone. I'm going to save the closer number for the last step. I'm going to get rid of the farther away number, that minus 21, doing the opposite. The opposite of subtracting 21 is adding 21. So then we haven't touched 8x. -21 plus 21 is 0, so it's gone from that side. 3 plus 21 is 24. And our last step, guys, is to get rid of that 8 that's attached with the x. And notice, there's nothing in between the 8 and the x. That means that's multiplication. Multiplication hides in our algebra. So that's 8 times x. The opposite of multiplication is division, which we always show with a fraction. So we'll do fraction bar 8, and that means we're dividing both sides by 8. And 24 divided by 8 is 3, which we know is correct because that is what our graph already told us x needed to be. Now notice, we still need an answer for y. So we're going to take our answer that we got for x, and we can plug it into either of these equations up here for x to then solve for y. So I'm going to take that 3 that I got for x and replace it right up there. And whenever we do substitution and replacing, guys, make sure we're going to use parentheses. So instead of x, now I'll turn that into a 3. And then we'll see 5 times 3 is 15. 15 minus 21 is -6, which is exactly what we got here.